Rick Hale, it is Mojo Monday, my friend.
It's that time and it's that day.
It is that day. So here's the interesting thing. We wrapped up your book, Stop Settling. I think it was such an impactful series, and I know it was very personal to you. So we're kind of going to spin off today a little bit on that. And I guess the title today is really kind of, are you living a life that's story worthy?
Yeah.
Meaning, are you living a life where you're uh you can tell some really good stories? And I guess really probably, Rick, the better topic would be, do the collection of your stories turn into a book, right? Or is
Yeah.
it worthy of a book?
Yeah. I
tell,
mean,
tell
what
me
kind
about
of,
that.
well,
Yeah.
let's start with the idea that what kind of life are you leading? And this is where the whole conversation came up. After writing a book, and it took me 10 years. So I want people to understand, this success is always slowly, then sudden. And so, I mean, when I tell you it was slow, there were days I thought, man, this book's never going to happen. Like, I just don't know how I'm going to make the corner. I mean, I had stories, but I hadn't put them together in the formation that looked like a legitimized book. But then one day I kept doing the work and I kept chopping wood, and one day it was done. And so that's how this works. And so as I'm promoting the book, and I'm really, really enjoying sharing the story of not only the context and content in the book, but also the motivation behind writing the book. And it keeps coming up. Why'd you write a book? And the more I think about it, I'm like, kind of because I had to. Like, it was in my heart, and I knew I wanted to live a life worthy, and I want to help people. And that's a big part of why you might want to write a book or live a life worthy of sharing the story. But I've asked people, show of hands, how many people want to write a book one day? And maybe it's just, we invest a lot of time in the real estate community, but there's a high percentage of people out there that are,
Yeah.
it's 50% or more that go, yeah, I'd like to write a book. And then
I don't think
go,
that's
how?
specific. I don't think that's specific to real estate. I think that's everybody. Like, we I think we long to live a life that's worthy of a book, Rick.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. But if 50% want to, and I'm like, why wouldn't the other 50%? And so then the question becomes, whether you write a book or don't write a book, is your life worthy? So that if you chose to later, I mean, you can't, it's a little late once you've experienced life and you've not accumulated either the stories, experiences, or the lessons worthy and paid attention. So at some point, if you don't pay attention along the way, it's not going to happen. So why not just pay attention along the way and be a better steward of your time on earth?
100%. Well, so why would anybody want to write a book, Rick? Like, I mean, break it down to, okay, I hear you say 50% of the people say they would, or they have an inkling or a thought of it, right?
Right,
But
right.
we understand the why, the motivation tends to cause people to take action, right? So break down maybe the motivation of that why, of what actually would cause somebody to put something down on paper.
Well, I'll start with this idea. So in thinking through why I wrote the book, one of the reasons I wrote a book was that, I want to leave a legacy letter. Just, it doesn't, and it kind of evolved into a book. First, it was like, I just want to be remembered. Like, I would hope everyone on this planet wants to be remembered for something. And so I started thinking about what do I want to share? What would I want to be remembered for or by? And what have I accomplished? And who am I? What am I? And why am I? And so those are universal questions. And then as I was sort of thinking through how I got here, I went through my, in writing the book, I told stories of growing up and what it was like with, various family experiences. And I had lots of those. Those are in the book. And then I thought back, well, if I go back 2 or 3 generations, I have no clue what my dad's dad was like. It's just not documented. And so maybe one reason is just like, if you started a trend or, legacy letter, maybe the next generation leaves one. And at some point you've got this almost like an encyclopedia of the historical, relevance for your entire family. And you recalibrate how you communicate generationally. And document it. And I thought, man, it'd be so cool to find a letter, a journal, or a book from my great grandfather in Europe who, what was your best day like? What was your worst day like? What was it like raising kids? How did you become educated? Like, what was your career and vocation like? And it's just fascinating to me. And, other than hopefulness that my dad remembers something. And again, if he goes 3 or 4 generations, it's lost. And so there's some permanence to leaving a letter. So it doesn't have to be a physical hardbound book, but a document that outlives your experience would be one good reason.
You know, Rick, this has hit me a little bit in the face today because really soon I'm actually going to visit the grave of my mother. And what's crazy about that is I can't pick up the phone and call her and go, "Hey, tell me how you think about this. Tell me what happened in this moment in life, or tell me your perspective on this." Yet, if she had ever written that book, I would have had that opportunity, right? And that's not a knock on my mother. That's just a challenge to everybody going forward, going,
Yeah.
"Hey, give that opportunity to somebody comes after us," right?
Yeah. Well, and the second reason is to inspire other people, and it's in the story. It's not what I had to get past was my own limiting belief that I needed to come up with a concept or idea that was new and never before experienced or shared. And as I evolved in my storytelling and writing the book, I realized, man, there's really not a lot of new information. There's just a new story that my experience might come to light or help someone see themselves in, that helps empower them to do something differently that changes their life. And so I would hope everyone listening today realizes it's not the data point, it's how your story might impact other people. And here's another piece of it, Brett. Your subconscious brain's listening. The minute you give it the riddle of, I want to write a book one day, it's going to start seeking information and experiences. And all of a sudden the sonar goes up and it perceives things differently. And
it
so
solves the problem for us.
Yeah, you feed it a really cool problem. Like, how would my life look if it was worthy of a shared story for either my family or the the entire world may need your story. In fact, I'm certain that it does.
So, Rick, I'm going to ask Chat GPT later today, the artificial intelligence, what would my life have to be story worthy, and see what it says. Because that's like what we're doing with our subconscious, right? You ask the question, and the subconscious will give you an answer.
Yeah, there's a cool. I heard this. This is a neat thought. What questions should you be asking yourself today that your future self 5 years from now will absolutely love you for asking?
Oh, I love that.
Uh-huh.
All right. So motivation. Talk to me more. Why wouldn't I write a book? Why not?
I mean, other than just, why? Here's why. I think fear, a little bit of insecurity around your story not being worthy. But here's the thing. The first step is to decide that you're going to have a worthy filled life. And by the way, you probably already decided that a while back, or you wouldn't be chopping the wood that you are doing the things you are. But you might elevate it by 1 or 2%. And we all know this. The difference between average and superstar in any category isn't 100% better. It's a few percent more intentionally applied. It's small, consecutive steps.
It's the 1% game. 1%.
That's it. It's the 1%. Yeah. And then one day it's a 10x game because you compound interest on your life and your experiences. So I think deciding is step one, and let your brain. And there's Dick Dillingham shared this years and years ago. He said, "Man, y'all should all go be cool, man. Work harder to be cool." And at the time, I think I was like, "I'm pretty cool, man. I don't know. I mean, I play guitar and I'm can be funny. I think I'm okay," and blah blah. And he went, "No, not COOL. It's KOOL." And you know what that means, don't you?
Yes, of course. Keen observer of life, right?
So,
and
yeah.
I mean, I heard him say that, and that analogy of that, or I forget the right word, but the acronym of that word has stuck with me all these years, because the truth is, if we're learning based individuals, or we're people that are seekers looking to improve 1% or be a better person or find that self-actualization in our life, you have to be that. You can't not be that if you're looking to be better. And I think it's really powerful. I mean, what I find interesting, Rick, is you write this book, and I know you so intimately, so I know that you're going around doing book tours and stuff like that. And your conversation around your book tours is more this conversation than specifically what's in the book, right?
It is.
How so?
But here's the thing. This conversation is, to me, the most important conversation, because if you get your head right around, and by the way, you don't have to know exactly what the outcome is going to be. You just have to decide. I mean, Dana Kinney, I love her, man. She made me laugh so hard. We were we were walking up to an event in North Georgia earlier this week, and there was a squirrel that had been hit by a car, and it was kind of gruesome. And I was like, ugh, unlucky day. And she said, yep, the roadways are filled with indecisive squirrels. And I'm just like, holy cow, that's an overlay for
that's a life metaphor. Yeah.
And I'm like, so I was like, once I just, again, I think the biggest first step is just to decide I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to be cool with a K, keen observer of life. And I'm going to keep a journal and pay attention to little things that one day, if I put those little things in a document, it would be entertaining, amusing, inspiring, and someone would just remember who, what, why you were. And that could be the difference in their life. And it's simple. I don't think it has to be complicated. So little things are big things. That's the other piece that as I age, I realize, the acquisition mode most people are in their, middle of their life where they're, earning, burning, and churning. And you look back and you're like, man, it was really in the experiences, the conversations. I'm planning a trip with my wife. Here's a quick example. And we're like, yeah, a friend. In fact, it was funny. A friend called and said, hey, we're taking this cruise to Iceland, and we're going to Holland, and we're going to do Denmark, and then we're going to London. And I thought, well, why don't we tack on Vienna, since I have family there? And then I called her, my cousin's there, and she said, well, why don't we go to Prague? It's only 3 hours. And then I said, well, we were thinking maybe we finish back in London. And she said, well, why go back there if you were there to begin with? Why not go to Istanbul? And I'm like, holy cow, I hadn't really thought through that. And anyway, the point in all this is, when you open the lens of, I want to write another book, you got to have experiences. So build your schedule and build your experiences first, and then let the rest of the world backfill into that and do what, the world will tell you what you need or want. The problem is it may not be what you need or want. It's what they need and want.
Of course.
And so anyway, the point there is dream bigger, why not? If you're going to write a book one day, add a detour to your vacation that creates an experience that's worthy of at least a few paragraphs somewhere.
Well, it starts as a story, right? And then
that's
becomes
all it
a
is.
collection. Yeah.
You nailed it. Collection of stories.
So Rick, take us out of here. So I'm going to use Dana Kinney's analogy. So we're not squished squirrels in the middle of a street here. What's our challenge?
I think the challenge is one, I just pulled my notes to make sure I don't miss it. But yeah, just plan experiences. I made a couple of notes, and that enhance your life experience that might lead to a story worthy of retelling to your kids. And so, and honestly, I think if you're more intentional and you pay more attention and then you document it, the book writes itself.
I love it. Rick Hale, Mojo Monday, my friend.
Awesome.
I know I'll be okay. When I see trouble come my way, I'll be making lemonade. I know I'll be okay. I know I'll be okay. Hey, little lady,
Hope everybody has an amazing weekend.
all your other friends are busy making them